The sirens blared through the narrow corridors of the asteroid mining colony, a high-pitched wail that reverberated off the steel walls like the haunting cry of a banshee. Maria Lee, head of security, sprinted through the labyrinthine tunnels, her heart pounding as hard as the boots of the panicking miners around her. She shoved her way past a cluster of workers, their faces ashen, eyes wide with the kind of fear that only an invasion can spark. "Get to the shelters," Maria yelled over her shoulder, waving them towards the nearest bunker entrance. Above, the metal ceiling vibrated with the impact of the alien ship's explosive charges, a rhythmic pounding that seemed to mock their desperation. The enemy had come without warning, descending upon the asteroid with sleek, black ships that blotted out the stars. Their confidence was palpable, an arrogance that declared their victory before the battle even began. They expected a quick takeover, a few shots to cow the miners into submission. But humans were unpredictable, a fact the invaders would soon learn. Maria skidded to a halt at the central operations hub, where a holographic display showed the chaos outside. Alien soldiers in their shimmering exosuits moved with mechanical precision, advancing across the asteroid's surface. A few miners had taken up arms, their resistance largely symbolic against the advanced weaponry of their foes. "Status?" Maria barked at the tech officer, whose fingers flew over the console in a frantic dance. "They've breached the perimeter," he replied, sweat glistening on his brow. "Communications are jammed. We're on our own." Maria clenched her fists, the weight of her responsibility a tangible force. "Then we fight back. Get every able-bodied miner armed. We'll show them that humans don't go down without a fight." A sudden explosion rocked the hub, sending equipment and personnel sprawling. Maria hit the ground hard, the air knocked from her lungs. As she struggled to rise, a shadow fell across her. The alien commander stood before her, a towering figure clad in dark armor, eyes hidden behind a helmet that glowed with an eerie light. He spoke in a low, guttural tone, his words translated through the device strapped to his wrist. "Futile," he said, the single word dripping with disdain. "Surrender, and you will be spared." Maria wiped the blood from her lip, pushing herself to her feet. She met the alien's gaze, defiance burning in her eyes. "We don't surrender," she spat, her voice steady and strong. "You might have thought this would be easy, but you've underestimated us." The alien hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty passing through him. In that moment, Maria knew they had a chance. Behind her, the miners rallied, grabbing whatever tools and weapons they could find. A makeshift army born of necessity, fueled by the determination that had driven humanity to the stars. The battle was far from over, and as the sounds of conflict raged around her, Maria swore that they would not go gentle into the night. This was their home, and they would defend it with everything they had. The alien commander raised his weapon, and Maria prepared to dodge, her mind racing with plans and contingencies. They had to hold out, to survive long enough to turn the tide. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then died, plunging the hub into darkness. A power cut or something more sinister? Maria's breath caught, the silence more oppressive than any sound. "Prepare for Phase 2, the alien commander ordered, his voice confident. But as the emergency lights blinked to life, illuminating the determined faces of her fellow humans, Maria knew they were not beaten. Not yet. The airlock hissed shut behind Captain Leona Krieger, sealing her in the narrow corridor with a clang that reverberated down the dimly lit passage. She took a moment to steady herself against the bulkhead, the cold metal grounding her as her mind raced through the chaos unfolding on the other side of the ship. The cultists had breached the outer hull, and panic had spread through the crew like a virus, each member scrambling to contain the madness that had spilled aboard the Starfarer. "Captain, they're spreading faster than we can handle." Lieutenant Harris' voice crackled over the comms, strained and punctuated by the staccato of gunfire. "Hold them off," Leona barked, her tone as sharp as the edge of a broken stiletto. "We need to protect the bridge at all costs. I'll join you as soon as I seal off engineering." Tucking her sidearm securely into its holster, Leona sprinted down the corridor, boots pounding on the deck plates. She replayed the last few hours in her head, trying to pinpoint when everything had gone to hell. They'd picked up the distress signal from the abandoned freighter, a ghost ship drifting on the edge of the nebula verge. Salvage was a routine part of their operations, but nothing about this job had been routine. The cultists had come aboard like shadows, their presence unnoticed until their chants had echoed through the comm system, a chilling drone of devotion that turned the stomach and pricked the skin. It was only then that she understood the signal had been a trap, a siren's call luring them into the cult's deadly embrace. Leona skidded to a halt outside engineering, slapping her hand against the control panel to override the lock. The door slid open with a reluctant groan, and she stepped inside, breath catching at the sight before her. The core was a hive of activity, technicians buzzing around the reactors, their faces masks of focused terror. "Report," she shouted, her voice cutting through the din. Chief Engineer Malik, a mountain of a man with a head shaved clean and eyes like twin storm clouds, turned from the console. "They're trying to overload the reactors, Captain. If we don't stop them, they'll turn this ship into a fireball." Leona clenched her jaw, mind racing. "Can we shut it down?" "Not from here. They've locked out the controls remotely. We need to reboot manually from the auxiliary console in the cultists section." "Of course they do," Leona muttered, her mind already plotting the quickest route. "Get a team together. I'll clear a path." "No time for a team," Malik said, stepping forward with grim determination. "I'll go with you. The rest need to maintain what control we have left." She nodded, appreciating his resolve. "Let's move." They plunged back into the corridor, the ship's klaxons wailing a discordant symphony around them. As they ran, Leona couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, the cultists' eyes on her from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Why do they want to destroy the ship?" Malik asked, breaking the tense silence between them. "To them, we're an offering," Leona replied bitterly. "A sacrifice to their god. They believe this ship's destruction will bring them closer to enlightenment or some other deranged vision." Malik's jaw tightened. "Fanatics, always willing to die for a cause, dragging the rest of us with them." As they rounded a corner, the bulkhead ahead exploded in a shower of sparks, a group of cultists emerging from the smoke like wraiths. They wore tattered robes, their eyes wild and fervent, each clutching a weapon with zealot's grip. "Get down," Leona shouted, diving for cover as a salvo of energy blasts streaked past her. Malik dropped beside her, his massive frame providing cover as he returned fire, his shots precise, each one finding its mark with deadly efficiency. The cultists fell, but more took their place, a tide of madness that seemed inexhaustible. "We can't hold them off forever," Malik growled, glancing at Leona. "Just need to clear a path," she replied, risking a peek around their cover. "There, we can cut through the maintenance ducts." They moved as one, Leona covering Malik's advance, her shots forcing the cultists to scatter. Once in the maintenance duct, the world shrunk to a crawl space of metal and darkness, the pounding of their hearts echoing in the confined space. "Who knew religion would be the death of us?" Malik quipped, his voice a low rumble in the tight quarters. Leona grinned despite the situation. Just another day in the galaxy, right? Their banter was cut short as the duct shook violently, the ship's structure groaning in protest. The cultists had found them, and they were determined to bring the whole section down to stop them. Leona pushed forward, urgency lending speed to their movements as they navigated the labyrinthine ducts, each turn bringing them closer to their goal. As they emerged into the cultist section, the air was thick with incense and the haunting echoes of their chants. The auxiliary console sat at the far end, bathed in an eerie glow, a beacon of hope in the madness. "Cover me," Malik said, moving towards the console with purpose. Leona nodded, scanning the room for threats. Her heart thudded in her chest as she took in the scene. Cultists circled the console, their eyes locked in trance, oblivious to the world. "Hey," she shouted, drawing their attention. "You want to serve your god? Come and get me." The cultists surged forward, abandoning their positions in a wave of fervor. Leona unleashed a barrage of fire, her shots precise and unrelenting. Each one fell, but it was Malik who was the true target, and she had no time to celebrate as the horde closed in. Almost there, Malik grunted, his hands flying over the console, fingers dancing across the keys. Leona's magazine clicked empty, and she discarded her weapon, drawing her combat knife in one fluid motion. The cultists met her with frenzied abandon, and she fought like a dervish, every move a testament to her training and will to survive. With a final keystroke, the console hummed to life, and Malik let out a triumphant roar. Done. The reactors are secure. Then let's get the hell out of here, Leona shouted, backing towards the console. The cultists hesitated, their fervor faltering as the reality of their failure set in. But it was a fleeting reprieve. From the shadows emerged their leader, a tall figure draped in robes of deep crimson, his presence commanding and dreadful. You think you've won? He intoned, his voice carrying over the din like a death knell. This is but a test, a trial of our faith. You cannot stop the inevitable. Leona met his gaze, unflinching. Maybe not, but we can damn well try. The leader raised his hand, and the cultists fell back, their retreat an unspoken promise of future conflict. Leona and Malik took the opportunity, bolting from the room as the cultists regrouped. They raced through the corridors, the ship shuddering around them as the cultists' sabotage continued to spread. The Starfarer was a wounded beast, its systems failing one by one, and it would take all they had to reach safety. Bridge, this is Krieger, Leona panted into her comm, dodging debris as they ran. Reactors are secure, but we've got a bigger problem. Their leader's here, and he's not giving up. Copy that, Captain, Harris replied, his voice tense. We've managed to hold the bridge, but barely. What are your orders? Prepare for emergency evacuation, Leona said, swallowing hard. We need to abandon ship before it's too late. What about the cultists? Malik asked, his brow furrowed with concern. They want a sacrifice? Leona replied with grim determination. Let's give them one. The plan was reckless, bordering on suicidal, but as they hurtled towards the bridge, Leona knew it was their only chance. The cultists may have won this skirmish, but they would not claim victory unchallenged. Not as long as there was breath in her body. The bridge doors slid open, revealing the beleaguered crew, their faces drawn and weary, yet filled with a fierce resolve. Leona took her place at the helm, eyes scanning the chaos on the screens. Harris, prep the escape pods, she ordered. Our priority is getting the crew out safely. We won't let these bastards take us down with them. The lieutenant nodded, moving to carry out her commands without hesitation. Around her, the crew sprang into action, each one driven by the will to survive. Malik, rig the core to overload, Leona said, her voice steady despite the storm raging within her. If they're going to destroy this ship, we're taking them with us. The engineer nodded, his expression resolute. Understood, Captain. I'll make sure they get what's coming to them. As the crew worked, Leona reached for the intercom, her voice echoing through the ship. All hands, this is Captain Krieger. Prepare for immediate evacuation. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. The ship shuddered violently, a reminder of the danger that encroached with each passing second. Leona's heart pounded in her chest, but fear was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not now, not ever. Harris, now, she commanded, her eyes fixed on the view outside, where the nebulous starscape awaited them. The escape pods launched in rapid succession, streaking away from the ship like comets, each one a lifeline to safety. Leona watched them go, a silent prayer on her lips for each soul aboard. Time to go, Captain, Malik said, appearing at her side, his face set in grim determination. Leona nodded, sparing one last glance at the bridge, the heart of the ship she'd called home. Let's end this. They made their way to the final escape pod, the ship's systems failing around them, alarms blaring a dirge for the Starfarer. As the pod launched, Leona felt the pull of gravity shift, the ship receding into the void. The cultists would find their sacrifice, the Starfarers' death throes a testament to their folly. But humanity would not be cowed, and Leona knew they would rise from the ashes to fight another day. In the silence of space, the Starfarer detonated, a brilliant supernova against the velvet darkness, the cultists' dreams consumed in its fiery embrace. Leona watched the spectacle, a bittersweet victory in the chaos, a reminder that as long as there was life, there was hope. And hope, she vowed, was something no cult could ever extinguish. The debris of the ill-fated invasion fleet still glittered in the void like a morbid constellation. Starships, once proud symbols of humanity's ambition, now lay torn apart, their twisted hulls reflecting the distant light of an indifferent sun. The vastness of space bore silent testimony to humanity's hubris, a failed crusade against the cult of the void. General Alana Bryce stood on the bridge of the HSS Resolute, her eyes scanning the tactical display. The holographic projection showed a graveyard of ships, the remnants of the fleet that had dared to challenge the cult's hold over the Helios cluster. The cult's enigmatic leader, known only as the Eclipsed One, had proved once again that their defenses were beyond formidable. The humans, like so many before them, had underestimated the power of fanatic resolve combined with alien technology. General, incoming transmission from command, her communications officer announced, breaking her reverie. Patch it through, Alana replied, her voice steady despite the churning in her gut. The face of Admiral Cato flickered into view, his features etched with weariness that mirrored her own. General Bryce, he acknowledged curtly, we need an immediate assessment of the situation. Alana squared her shoulders. Admiral, the fleet has sustained catastrophic losses. Our ships are either destroyed or captured, and surviving personnel are scattered. The Eclipsed One anticipated our moves at every turn. Cato's expression darkened. We cannot let this defeat stand. The Council demands a renewed offensive. We must regroup and retaliate. With respect, sir, another direct assault will lead to further decimation, Alana cautioned, her frustration boiling beneath her calm exterior. We need a new approach, something they won't expect. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. The Council won't accept excuses. Humanity's reputation is at stake. As the transmission cut off, Alana clenched her fists. The Council's obsession with pride and vengeance was blinding them to the reality of their situation. The cult of the void was no ordinary foe. Their ships were imbued with an uncanny resilience, their tactics unpredictable and ruthless. She turned to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Commander Dara Singh, who had been silently observing. Dara, we need a plan that doesn't involve throwing more lives into the grinder. Dara nodded, her dark eyes thoughtful. What about a surgical strike? We infiltrate their stronghold and target the Eclipsed One directly. Cut off the head of the snake. Risky, Alana mused, but it might just be our best shot. The cult relies heavily on the Eclipsed One's influence. Disrupt that, and their cohesion might shatter. As they plotted, a sudden tremor rocked the Resolute, alarms blaring as the ship's systems struggled to compensate. Report, Alana barked, her heart racing. We're under attack, General, the tactical officer shouted. Cult ships emerging from subspace, 3 o'clock. The bridge erupted into chaos, officers scrambling to their stations. Alana's mind raced as she watched the cult ships, sleek and ominous, materialize like phantoms from a nightmare. Their energy weapons flared, casting eerie shadows across the Resolute's beleaguered hull. Return fire, Alana ordered, her voice a steel thread amid the pandemonium. Evasive maneuvers, the Resolute shuddered as it retaliated, its own weapons blazing defiantly. But even as the cult ships sustained damage, they continued their relentless assault, their numbers overwhelming. Alana gritted her teeth, her hands balled into fists at her sides. General, we're outnumbered and outgunned, Dara warned, her voice barely audible over the cacophony. We need to retreat. Not yet, Alana replied, determination etched in every line of her face. We can't run forever. Prepare for emergency warp. Destination: the Helios cluster. Dara hesitated, understanding the implications of Alana's decision. You're taking us straight into their territory. Better to face them on our terms than be hunted down like prey, Alana retorted. Do it, Dara. We need to regroup and gather intelligence. It's our only chance. The bridge crew worked with frantic precision, the ship's systems humming as coordinates were locked in. Alana watched the cult ships closing in, their intentions clear and merciless. She held her breath as the Resolute's engines roared to life, the warp drive charging for an escape that bordered on madness. In a blinding flash, the Resolute leapt into the unknown, leaving behind the wreckage of human ambition and a trail of vengeful foes. ******, the Helios cluster loomed ahead, a swirling expanse of stars and nebulae that seemed to pulsate with an unnatural energy. This was the cult's stronghold, a place most feared to tread. Alana knew that if they were to uncover the secrets of the Eclipsed One, it would be here, amidst the shadows and whispers of the void. Stealth systems engaged, General, Dara reported, her fingers dancing over the console. We're off their radar, for now. Good, Alana replied, her mind already racing through possibilities. We need to find a way to infiltrate their main base. If we can gather intel on their defenses and the Eclipsed One's location, we might stand a chance. Dara studied the tactical display, her brow furrowing. There's a massive energy signature emanating from the center of the cluster. Could be their main base, or something even more dangerous. Alana nodded, her instincts screaming caution. Send out recon drones. We need eyes on that structure before we make a move. As the drones slipped into the void, Alana turned her attention to the crew. They were weary, their faces lined with the strain of battle and loss. Every life lost weighed heavily on her conscience, but she couldn't allow herself the luxury of doubt. Not now, General, Dara said softly, her voice breaking through the silence. Why do you think the Council is so insistent on this crusade? It's not just about reputation, is it? Alana sighed, her shoulders sagging under the weight of unspoken truths. The Council fears the cult's influence spreading beyond the cluster. They've seen what happens when the Eclipsed One converts entire worlds to their cause. It's a threat to humanity's survival and their power. Still, it feels like we're being used as pawns, Dara remarked, her eyes searching Alana's face. Is there something you're not telling me? Alana hesitated, then met Dara's gaze, her resolve firm. The Council has its secrets, but we can't let their machinations dictate our actions. We're here to protect our people, and we'll do whatever it takes to end this threat. A flicker of understanding passed between them, a silent pact forged in the crucible of shared determination. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. The recon drones returned, their data painting a chilling picture. The cult's stronghold was a fortress of alien architecture, its defenses bristling with energy shields and automated turrets. But even more concerning was the revelation that the Eclipsed One was conducting some form of ritual, a convergence of power that defied explanation. We need to act fast, Alana said, her mind racing. If that ritual is as dangerous as it seems, we can't afford to wait. How do we even get close? Dara asked, her voice tinged with urgency. Their defenses will rip us apart. Alana's eyes narrowed, her mind seizing a reckless idea. We use one of their ships. If we can capture an enemy vessel, we might slip past their defenses unnoticed. It's a gamble, Dara replied, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. But it's the kind of gamble I like. As they plotted their audacious infiltration, alarms blared once more. The cult had found them. Incoming fighters, the tactical officer shouted, panic threading his voice. The Resolute shuddered as enemy ships descended upon them, their weapons blazing with righteous fury. Alana cursed under her breath, her mind a whirl of calculations and desperation. We're out of time, she declared, her voice cutting through the chaos. Prepare for boarding action. We need that ship. As the Resolute's crew scrambled to repel the attackers, Alana and Dara led the charge, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. The cult's fighters were relentless, their pilots fanatical in their devotion. But humans were nothing if not resourceful, and Alana knew that survival demanded audacity. The battle raged, a maelstrom of fire and steel, until at last, they breached the cult ship's defenses. Alana led the boarding party through the enemy vessel's corridors, her pulse a drumbeat in her ears. The cultists fought with a savage ferocity, but the humans pressed on, driven by a purpose greater than fear. In the bowels of the ship, Alana and Dara reached the command deck, the air crackling with tension. The cult captain, a figure cloaked in shadow, turned to face them, eyes burning with an otherworldly light. "You dare defile our sacred vessel?" the captain hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. "The Eclipsed One will consume you." Alana leveled her weapon, her gaze unyielding. "Not today." The confrontation was swift and brutal, the cult captain falling to the floor, his defiance extinguished. The ship was theirs, and with it, a chance to infiltrate the heart of the cult's stronghold. As the Resolute's crew secured their prize, Alana felt a flicker of hope kindling in her chest. They were outmatched and outnumbered, but humanity's potential lay in their tenacity, their refusal to yield to despair. "Set course for the stronghold," Alana ordered, her voice echoing with determination. "It's time to finish this." As the captured ship slipped into the void, Alana knew that they were venturing into the unknown, where shadows whispered of forgotten truths and nightmares lurked in the dark. But she also knew that within those shadows lay the key to humanity's survival, a potential that had yet to be fully realized. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but Alana and her crew would face it head-on, fueled by reckless courage and the unyielding spirit of humanity. The cerulean glow of the distant star barely pierced the thick, swirling miasma surrounding the planet, casting eerie shadows across the surface of the cult's colony. The ragtag assembly of human rebels, led by the defiant and fiercely determined Captain Mira Jansen, crouched in the underbrush at the edge of the cult's territory. With tension coiling in her muscles, Mira peered through the dense foliage at the imposing fortress that stood menacingly ahead. The fortress, constructed of shimmering alien alloys, towered above them like a monolithic god, its spires reaching up to scratch the belly of the swirling storm clouds. It was said to harbor the cult's enigmatic leader, the self-proclaimed prophet Zalzaran. A being who claimed divine insight, Zalzaran had seduced countless beings across the galaxy into his fold, utilizing a combination of mind-bending technology and charisma that bordered on the supernatural. But to Mira and her crew, he was just another tyrant to topple. A nearby rustle snapped Myra's attention back to her crew. Lieutenant Rafe, her second-in-command, shot her a grim look, his face smeared with the grime of their journey. "Mira, scouts report increased patrols. Zalzaran's onto us. He's closing the noose." Mira nodded, her mind a flurry of calculations and contingencies. "Then we strike fast, and we strike hard. We need to reach the heart of that fortress before the cult can reinforce their defenses." Rafe grunted in agreement, though doubt flickered in his eyes. "And if we can't?" Myra's lips pressed into a thin line. "Then we find another way. We always do." She turned to the rest of her crew, a motley band of thrill-seekers and outcasts, each with their own reasons for opposing the cult. "This is it. We move in 10. The group acknowledged her command with silent nods, each member knowing the gravity of their task. Just then, a crackling transmission broke through the comms, distorted by the planet's volatile atmosphere. "Mira, it's Kira. The cult's launching their disruptor drones. They'll blanket the area in 10 minutes, max." The news hit like a punch to the gut. Disruptor drones were notorious, advanced tech capable of shorting out any electronics within their radius. Their plan hinged on the element of surprise in their tech. Without it, they'd be sitting ducks. "Then we move now," Mira barked, adrenaline spiking in her veins. "This is the only shot we get. Rafe, take point. Kira, stay on those drones and find us a workaround." With no time to waste, the rebels launched into motion. They sprinted through the jungle's dense undergrowth, their movements swift and silent. But as they neared the fortress's perimeter, Mira felt a gnawing unease. The jungle was too quiet, the cult's defenses oddly subdued. As if in answer, a sudden burst of light erupted from the fortress, a dazzling array of colors that seared across the darkened sky. A barrier, a force field, flared to life, encasing the fortress in a shimmering dome. It was a technological marvel designed to repel any intruders foolhardy enough to breach its boundaries. "That's new," Rafe cursed, skidding to a halt beside Mira. "We can't get through that." Mira clenched her fists, her mind racing. "We may not have to," she said, the flicker of an idea sparking in her eyes. "Kira, how long before the drones hit?" 7 minutes, Kira's voice crackled back. "What's your plan?" Myra's mind whirred into overdrive, weaving possibilities from impossibilities. "We use it. We let the drones take down the barrier for us." Rafe eyed her as if she'd lost her mind. "That's insane. We'd be exposed." "Exactly," Mira replied, a reckless grin spreading across her face. "And that's when we strike." Time was their enemy, but so was hesitation. With renewed urgency, Mira led her crew closer to the fortress, knowing that each passing second brought them closer to a cataclysmic encounter. As they positioned themselves near the barrier's edge, she could almost taste the electric tension in the air. Minutes later, the ominous hum of the disruptor drones filled the sky, their sleek forms slicing through the atmosphere with predatory grace. The rebels watched as the drones deployed, releasing a wave of energy that crackled like 1,000 angry hornets. The force field flickered violently before collapsing in a cascade of sparks. "Now," Mira yelled, driving forward with a ferocity born of desperation. The rebels surged towards the fortress, their movements a chaotic dance of audacity and survival. But even as they breached the perimeter, the cult's defenses roared to life. Cultists clad in armor painted with the swirling sigils of their order poured from the fortress, their weapons blazing. Mira dodged a volley of searing plasma bolts, her reflexes honed by countless battles. Around her, her crew fought with a tenacity that bordered on the supernatural, their determination a tangible force. Yet, the cultists fought with a fervor that bordered on madness, driven by their unshakable belief in Zalzarin. The rebels were outgunned and outnumbered, the tide of the battle threatening to sweep them away. Myra's heart pounded with the rhythm of impending doom, but she refused to yield. Amidst the chaos, Mira spotted a glint of metal, a service hatch partially obscured by debris. Hope flared in her chest. "Rafe, cover me," she shouted, diving towards the hatch. Plasma fire scorched the air around her, but she reached her target, wrenching the hatch open with a grunt of effort. The rebels had one chance to infiltrate the fortress, and Mira was determined to make it count. She slipped inside, the clamor of battle fading as she descended into the bowels of the structure. The air grew cooler, the walls lined with conduits pulsing with alien energy. Behind her, Rafe and a handful of rebels followed, sealing the hatch behind them. "We're in," Mira panted, her voice echoing through the narrow passage. "Now we find Zalzarin and end this." The labyrinthine corridors of the fortress twisted and turned, each corner a potential ambush. The rebels pressed on, their resolve hardened by the knowledge that retreat was not an option. Every step they took was fraught with danger, but Mira led them onward, propelled by a mixture of defiance and something deeper, something distinctly human. As they navigated the maze, Mira couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was a prickling awareness at the back of her mind, as if the fortress itself was alive and aware of their presence. Her suspicions were confirmed when they rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a contingent of the cult's elite guards. Clad in ornate armor that shimmered with ethereal light, the guards regarded the rebels with disdain. "Surrender, and the Prophet may spare your lives," their leader intoned, his voice resonant and cold. Myra's response was a defiant grin. "Sorry, not today." The ensuing clash was brutal, the confined space amplifying every sound into a cacophony of violence. Mira fought with a feral intensity, her movements a blur as she weaved through the guards, exploiting every opening with ruthless efficiency. Her crew followed suit, their actions coordinated by an unspoken understanding forged in the crucible of countless battles. But even as they fought, the fortress itself turned against them. Defense systems activated, spewing streams of energy and deploying mechanical sentinels that joined the fray. The rebels were caught in a deadly dance, their every step shadowed by the relentless assault. Mira knew they couldn't sustain this for long. "We need to move, now," she shouted, carving a path through the guards. Her team rallied, breaking through the enemy line and sprinting deeper into the fortress. The corridors seemed to stretch and warp, the architecture a disorienting blend of alien aesthetics and impossible geometry. But amidst the chaos, Mira noticed something, a pattern in the madness. The fortress was guiding them, funneling them towards a singular point. Her instincts screamed a warning, but they had no choice but to follow the path laid before them. With grim determination, they pressed onward, the sound of pursuit echoing in their wake. The path ended in a vast chamber, its walls lined with pulsating conduits that hummed with an unfathomable energy. At the center stood Prophet Zalzarin himself, a figure both imposing and otherworldly. His presence filled the room, a palpable force that thrummed with the weight of his conviction. Zalzarin regarded them with eyes that seemed to pierce through to their very souls. "Welcome, children of Earth," he intoned, his voice a velvet caress as much as it was a command. "You stand at the precipice of enlightenment. Spare us the sermon," Mira snapped, her weapon trained unwaveringly on him. "This ends now," the prophet chuckled, a sound that resonated with a chilling harmony. "You misunderstand. This is only the beginning." A wave of energy rippled from Zalzarin, a psychic assault that crashed over the rebels like a tsunami. Mira staggered, her mind reeling from the onslaught. Around her, her crew faltered, their resolve tested to breaking point. "Feel my truth," Zalzarin whispered, his words a seductive promise. "Join us and know peace." But Myra's spirit was not so easily broken. Gritting her teeth, she fought against the encroaching darkness, her will a beacon of defiance. "We make our own peace," she growled, rallying her crew with a fierce cry. "Remember why we fight." Her words cut through the haze, reigniting the flame of resistance within her team. They surged forward, a battered but unyielding force, determined to topple the false prophet. Yet, as they closed the distance, it became clear that Zalzarin was no mere mortal. He moved with a preternatural grace, his every motion a counterpoint to their assault. And as the rebels fought valiantly, the fortress itself seemed to conspire against them, its walls shifting, trapping them in a deadly embrace. Myra's heart pounded with the rhythm of desperation, her vision narrowing to a single focus. She had to reach him, to end this madness before it consumed them all. But as she lunged, Zalzarin unleashed a final surge of power, a crescendo of energy that sent her crashing to the ground. Pain lanced through her, a searing agony that threatened to drag her into oblivion. Around her, her crew lay scattered, their bodies battered and broken. Hope flickered, a fragile ember in the face of overwhelming odds. But even in the darkness, Myra's spirit refused to yield. With a ragged breath, she pushed herself up, her determination a blazing beacon against the encroaching night. The battle was far from over, and the rebels would not go quietly into the abyss. In that moment, beneath the shadow of the fortress and the weight of destiny, the true nature of humanity shone through, a fierce, unyielding light that refused to be extinguished. The Starfall cult's flagship hung in the inky depths of space like the sword of Damocles, a titan's fist poised to crush the last vestiges of human resistance. The zealots aboard reveled in their perceived triumph, having cornered the ragtag fleet of freedom-seeking humans against the event horizon of a black hole. It was a cosmic noose tightening around the very throat of humanity. On board the human ship, the Renaissance Asterisk, every deck was a symphony of alarms and determined voices. The air thrummed with urgency, the metallic scent of overheating circuits mingling with the sweat of desperation. Captain Alara Voss stood resolute on the bridge, her eyes fierce, a storm contained within the confines of her gaze. She was a symbol of defiance, her presence a rallying cry for survival against the impossible. "Captain, we've lost shields on the port side," yelled Lieutenant Decker, his voice barely audible above the cacophony of warning sirens. Sparks cascaded from a console like fiery rain, a technician scrambling to contain the damage. "Divert power from auxiliary systems to the engines," Alara commanded, her voice a dagger of determination. "We need to keep moving. We can't afford to be sitting ducks." As the ship trembled under the onslaught of enemy fire, Alara's mind raced. The cult had underestimated humanity's resilience before, but now they had thrown everything into this final push. The Renaissance was outmatched, outgunned, and out of options, but not out of hope. In the depths of the ship, in a cramped engineering bay, Chief Engineer Ryo Takahashi was a whirlwind of action. His hands moved with the precision of an artist, ripping panels aside and rerouting power with reckless ingenuity. The cult's ships were vast, their weaponry advanced, but they lacked one crucial element: the human spirit. "We're gonna have to get creative," Ryo muttered, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his oil-stained hand. "If we can't outrun him, maybe we can outsmart him." Beside him, Ensign Marlowe, her face smudged with grease, nodded firmly. "What do you have in mind, Ryo?" Ryo's eyes gleamed with a dangerous light. "We use the black hole." Marlowe blinked, momentarily stunned by the audacity of the suggestion. "You're crazy. That could tear us apart." "Could tear them apart too," Ryo countered, his voice a low growl of defiance. "The gravitational field will distort everything. If we time it right, we can slingshot around and come out behind them. They'll never see it coming." Back on the bridge, Alara listened to Ryo's plan with the grim acceptance of someone who had nothing left to lose. The cult's leader, High Priestess Nala, watched from her lofty perch on the flagship, her confidence absolute, her gaze dismissive of the insects she sought to crush. "Very well," Alara said, steeling herself for the harrowing maneuver. "Ryo, prepare for the jump. Decker, relay the plan to the rest of the fleet. Everyone needs to be ready to follow us through." The cult's ships closed in, a swarm of locusts ready to devour, their weapons blazing with righteous fury. To them, this was the final act, the last chapter in humanity's Defiance saga. "Nala thinks she's already won," Alara said, her voice steel-clad. "Let's show her what it means to be human." With a collective breath held in defiance of fate, the Renaissance plunged towards the black hole, its engines roaring with a defiant scream. The cult's ships followed, their overconfidence blinding them to the trap that was about to be sprung. As the gravitational forces seized the Renaissance asterisk, space itself twisted and bent, the universe a kaleidoscope of impossible colors. Alara gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles white with the strength of her resolve. The ship groaned, metal straining against the cosmic forces that sought to tear it apart. "We're almost there," Ryo's voice crackled over the comms, a beacon of determination. "Hold tight, everyone." The Renaissance danced on the edge of annihilation, its trajectory a thread through the eye of a cosmic needle. The cult's ships, caught unawares by the sudden change, faltered, their formation breaking as they struggled to react. And then, in a heartbeat, the Renaissance emerged from the other side of the black hole, its battered hull a testament to human tenacity. Behind it, the cult's ships floundered, caught in the gravitational maelstrom, their overconfidence their undoing. "Now," Alara shouted, her voice a clarion call to arms. "All ships, fire at will." The human fleet, battered but unbroken, unleashed its fury. The cult's ships, disoriented and vulnerable, were caught in a hailstorm of vengeance, their hulls buckling under the onslaught. On the cult's flagship, Nala's expression twisted from triumph to rage. Her hand clenched around her staff, the weight of her miscalculation crashing down upon her. "We are not defeated," she screamed, though the certainty in her voice wavered. "We will not be." Her words were cut short as an explosion rocked the flagship, the human fleet's relentless assault finding purchase. The ship shuddered, its mighty form reduced to a wounded beast. Alara watched the spectacle unfold, her heart a fierce drumbeat of hope. The cult had underestimated them, had believed in their invincibility, and now they were paying the price. But the battle was far from over. "Captain, we've got incoming," Decker warned, his fingers dancing over the controls. "They're regrouping for another round." Alara's jaw tightened. This was their moment, the breaking point where everything could change. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but they would not fall into the abyss. "Not today. All ships, maintain formation," Alara ordered, her voice unwavering. "We fight to the last breath." The blackened void was alive with the fury of battle, the remnants of the cult's armada clashing with the defiant human fleet. What had started as a desperate last stand had become a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. Nala's flagship, once a symbol of inevitable victory, now teetered on the brink of destruction. Its once imposing silhouette was marred by fires and debris, the consequence of its hubris. In the heart of the ship, Nala fought to maintain control, her followers scrambling to hold the remnants of their faith together. But doubt had taken root, the seeds of humanity's resurgence sowed in the fertile ground of their arrogance. On the Renaissance asterisk, Rio's voice crackled over the comms once more. "Captain, we have a shot at their engines. If we take them out, we can cripple their ship for good." Alara's eyes locked onto the viewport, the flagship's engines glowing like a target in the void. This was the moment, the culmination of their defiance. "Do it, Rio," she commanded, her voice a blade cutting through the chaos. In the engineering bay, Rio and Marlowe worked with the precision of soldiers, their hands dancing over controls as they aligned the weapons. The ship's cannons roared, a symphony of destruction unleashed upon the cult's flagship. The engines of the enemy ship erupted in a blaze of fire and metal, the once mighty vessel lurching as it spiraled out of control. Nala's scream of rage echoed in the void, a final lament for her shattered dreams. The human fleet, battered and bruised, watched as the flagship succumbed to its fate, its form consumed by the inexorable pull of the black hole. The cult, in its arrogance, had become the architect of its own demise. As the wreckage of the flagship disappeared into the cosmic abyss, a cheer rose from the human fleet, a sound of victory and vindication. Against all odds, they had turned the tide. But Alara knew this was just the beginning. Humanity's resurgence was at hand, the seeds planted in the charred remains of the cult's hubris. They had defied the darkness, had stood against the impossible, and now they would rise from the ashes. "Prepare to regroup," Alara ordered, her voice carrying the weight of their triumph. "We have a galaxy to reclaim." The fleet moved with renewed purpose, the spirit of humanity a blazing star against the dark expanse of space. They had refused to give up, had faced the abyss and emerged victorious. And now, with the cult's defeat echoing in the void, the future was theirs to seize. In the aftermath of the battle, the Renaissance drifted amid the debris of its adversaries. The crew, weary but resolute, began repairs, their spirits a tapestry woven with the threads of determination and hope. In the heart of the ship, Alara stood in quiet reflection, the weight of their victory both a relief and a burden. The cult's shadow had been vanquished, but its echoes would linger, a reminder of the darkness that could never be fully erased. Yet, as the stars began to glimmer in the void, a new dawn was breaking. Humanity's resilience had been tested, their spirit forged in the crucible of adversity. The cult had underestimated them, had believed in their inevitable domination. But they had forgotten the most crucial truth of all. Humans are never out until they're out. As the Renaissance and its fleet set a course for the next chapter in their journey, the seeds of their resurgence took root in the fertile soil of victory. The cult had thought them defeated, but in their darkest hour, humanity had risen, defiant. And now, with the galaxy stretching before them, they would forge a new destiny, one born of courage, unity, and an unyielding belief in the indomitable human spirit. The stars awaited, and the humans were ready to reach for them, again. The cult of the eternal equilibrium was not accustomed to surprises. The universe, in its infinite expanse, was a simple equation to them, a balance of forces that they believed they alone understood. They had charted every star, mapped every nebula, and claimed every planet that suited their doctrine. They had spread across the galaxy, bringing their order and philosophy to countless worlds, leaving behind them a trail of subjugated civilizations and broken rebellions. But humans were different. Oh, they had initially seemed like just another primitive species, confined to their blue marble of a planet, barely scratching at the surface of space. The cult had watched them with mild curiosity, assuming they would soon join the ranks of the converted or the conquered. That illusion shattered when the humans struck back. It began on the outer fringes of the cult's dominion, on a world they had named Theocracy, a barren rock of a place whose sole purpose was to serve as a staging ground for their crusades. The humans had arrived in a ship that looked like nothing more than a patchwork of metal and madness, an affront to the cult's notions of symmetry and order. High Priestess Xylar watched from the observation deck, her expression one of contemptuous amusement as the alarms blared and the vessel hurtled toward the planet in a reckless descent. "They dare to challenge us?" she sneered. "Let them come. We shall show them the folly of defying the eternal equilibrium." But the humans had a different plan. The ship did not slow. Instead, it accelerated, slamming into the planet's surface with a ferocity that shook the ground for miles around. A plume of dust and debris rose into the atmosphere, and from its epicenter emerged a swarm of figures clad in armor that glittered under the alien sun. It was then that the cult realized their underestimation. The humans were not here to negotiate or plead. They were here to fight. The first wave of human soldiers moved with a speed and coordination that belied their seemingly chaotic entry. They wielded weapons that fired bursts of energy, cutting through the ranks of the cult's guards like a hot knife through butter. Xylar watched in disbelief as her forces, trained to perfection, fell before the onslaught. "Deploy the sentinels," she barked, her voice carrying over the chaos. The sentinels were the cult's ultimate weapon, towering constructs of metal and energy, designed to be the embodiment of their power. But even they proved insufficient against the surge of human ingenuity. A group of humans broke off from the main force, moving with purpose toward the sentinels. They carried with them devices that glowed with an eerie blue light. Xylar leaned forward, intrigued despite herself. "What are they doing?" Her question was answered moments later when the humans activated their devices. The blue light enveloped the sentinels, causing their systems to sputter and die. The constructs that were supposed to be invincible fell to the ground, reduced to nothing more than inert scrap. "It can't be," Xylar whispered, her confidence wavering for the first time. How had these primitives devised a way to neutralize her most powerful weapons? The thought gnawed at her, unsettling the foundations of her belief in the cult's supremacy. Meanwhile, the humans pressed their advantage. They moved with a ferocity that was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Their tactics were unconventional, unpredictable. Where the cult relied on calculated maneuvers and rigid formations, the humans improvised, adapting to the changing battlefield with remarkable speed. Xylar could not deny it any longer. The humans were formidable. Their strength did not lie solely in their technology or their numbers, but in their sheer determination and ingenuity. They fought with a reckless abandon that defied reason, a willingness to risk everything for the chance to win. The tide of battle began to turn, and with it, the cult's confidence crumbled. Xylar could feel the panic spreading among her ranks, a creeping doubt that threatened to unravel their carefully maintained order. Desperate to regain control, Xylar ordered the activation of the planet's defense grid, a network of cannons and anti-air batteries designed to obliterate any threat from above. But as the weapons powered up, they were met with an unexpected counter. Above the planet, in the void of space, a human fleet had arrived. Their ships were not the sleek, symmetrical vessels of the cult. They were rugged, patched-together crafts that seemed to defy the laws of engineering. But they were efficient, and they were armed to the teeth. The humans had anticipated the cult's defense grid. As the cannons prepared to fire, the human ships unleashed a barrage of electromagnetic pulses, scrambling the systems of the ground-based weapons and rendering them useless. It was a move so audacious, so reckless, that Xylar found herself momentarily admiring the sheer audacity of it. Her admiration turned to alarm as the human ground forces pushed forward, their momentum unstoppable. The cult's lines faltered and then broke, their disciplined formations collapsing under the relentless human assault. In the midst of this chaos, Xylar received a transmission from one of her commanders. High Priestess, we must retreat. The humans, they fight like demons. We cannot hold them. Xylar's grip tightened around the armrests of her chair. Retreat? The word was anathema to her. Yet, as she surveyed the battlefield, she could see the truth of it. The humans were winning. They had turned the tide, and the cult had no choice but to fall back. With a heavy heart, Xylar gave the order. Withdraw. Regroup at the secondary base. This is not over. The retreat was chaotic, a mad scramble to escape the advancing human forces. But even in their disarray, the cult managed to regroup, retreating to the safety of their secondary base on the moon of Theocracy. From the observation deck, Xylar watched as the humans celebrated their victory, her mind racing with questions. How had they done it? How had they turned the cult's own weapons against them? And what did this mean for the future? The answers seemed to elude her, slipping through her fingers like sand. But one thing was clear: the humans were not to be underestimated. They were a force unlike any the cult had encountered before, and their potential for disruption was immense. As she contemplated this, Xylar received a message from the High Council. They demanded an explanation for the failure, their voices filled with indignation and disbelief. What happened, Xylar? How did you let this happen? For a moment, Xylar considered fabricating an excuse, blaming the failure on unforeseen circumstances or sabotage. But in the end, she chose honesty. We underestimated them, she admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. The humans, they're unpredictable. They fight with a ferocity and ingenuity that defies our understanding. We must adapt, or we will be defeated. The council fell silent, their confidence shaken. It was a bitter pill to swallow, this realization that their supremacy was not as assured as they had believed. But even as doubt crept in, Xylar felt a spark of determination ignite within her. The humans had proven themselves a worthy adversary, but the cult would not be so easily defeated. They would regroup, they would learn, and they would strike back. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, and Xylar intended to ensure that the next time they faced the humans, it would be on her terms. As the humans celebrated their hard-won victory, unaware of the storm that was brewing, Xylar made a silent vow to herself and to the cult. The universe was a grand stage, and the humans had proven they were more than capable players. But the cult would reclaim its role as the master of this cosmic drama. And when the curtain rose on the next act, it would be the humans who found themselves facing the unexpected. The cult of the eternal equilibrium was not accustomed to surprises, but perhaps it was time they learned to embrace them. The Grand Preceptor of the Celestial Union, a being known only as Luminax, floated above the deck of the High Temple cruiser, his eyes glowing with the iridescent light of 1,000,000 dying stars. He surveyed the void as if it were his dominion, and until very recently, it had been. For decades, the Celestial Union had been the unrivaled power in this quadrant of the galaxy, their influence extending across systems like a vast, unassailable empire. They had assumed themselves invincible, and it was that very assumption that was now fracturing like glass before the hammer of humanity. The humans, with their ragtag coalition of ships and their reckless disregard for interstellar hierarchy, had proven to be more than just a thorn in Luminax's side. They were a full-blown revolution, fueled by defiance and an unyielding belief in their own freedom. As the Grand Preceptor watched the human fleet approaching, he realized with a chilling clarity that he had underestimated them. The celestial choir of the Union's superships sang a song of destruction, their weapons primed and ready to obliterate the human threat. Yet, at the center of the chaos, a single human ship, the Vigilant, broke through the ranks with a blazing audacity that defied all logic. Captain Astrid Hale, infamous throughout the galaxy for her daring escapades and tactical brilliance, stood on the bridge of the Vigilant, her eyes burning with determination. "All systems online, Captain," reported Lieutenant Harris, his voice steady despite the tension crackling through the air. "The fleet is awaiting your command." Astrid nodded, a fierce grin spreading across her face. "Let's show them what humans are made of." In that moment, the Vigilant became more than just a ship. It became a symbol of everything humanity represented. The audacity to challenge the impossible, the courage to stand against overwhelming odds, and the brilliance to turn desperation into victory. With a deft hand, Astrid guided the Vigilant through a series of maneuvers that left the Celestial Union ships scrambling to keep up. Her crew worked in seamless harmony, each member contributing to the symphony of survival and defiance that resonated through the stars. "Deploy the decoys," Astrid commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Within seconds, a swarm of holographic projections burst forth from the Vigilant, each one a perfect replica of the ship. The Union's targeting systems were thrown into disarray, their weapons firing blindly at illusions that dissolved into nothingness. Luminax watched the unfolding spectacle with growing frustration. This was not how it was supposed to be. The humans were meant to be crushed beneath the might of the Union, not dancing circles around it. His arrogance had blinded him to the truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were wild, unpredictable, and incredibly resourceful. As the Vigilant dodged and weaved through the onslaught, Astrid's mind raced with strategies and contingencies. She knew that this was their chance, their moment to turn the tide. "Prepare the EMP burst," she ordered, her voice a mix of calm and excitement. "Let's see how they handle a little technological hiccup." The Vanguard, an elite strike squad of human engineers and hackers, worked with feverish precision. The EMP device, a marvel of human ingenuity, was primed and ready. It would only take a single well-placed strike to incapacitate the Union systems, turning their own technology against them. "Fire!" Astrid shouted, and the Vigilant released its payload. An invisible wave of electromagnetic energy rippled through the battlefield, enveloping the Union ships in a cocoon of chaos. Systems flickered and died as the EMP short-circuited their defenses, leaving them vulnerable and exposed. The human fleet, seizing the opportunity with merciless efficiency, launched their counterattack. Fighters swarmed like angry hornets, targeting key systems and crippling the Union's once imposing armada. Ship after ship fell to the humans' relentless assault, their pride and arrogance shattered beneath the weight of human tenacity. On the bridge of the High Temple cruiser, Luminax could only watch in disbelief as his fleet crumbled around him. How had it come to this? How had a species so seemingly primitive managed to outwit the celestial might of the Union? The answer was as clear as it was humbling. Humanity's strength lay not in their technology, but in their spirit. They were survivors, innovators, and dreamers. They thrived in adversity, turning even the bleakest of circumstances into an opportunity for triumph. Captain Astrid Hale, the embodiment of that indomitable spirit, pressed the attack with a ferocity that left the Union reeling. Her crew operated with the precision of a well-oiled machine, their unity and resolve unbreakable. "Target their command ship," Astrid instructed, her eyes fixed on the High Temple cruiser. "Let's end this." The Vigilant led the charge, flanked by a vanguard of human ships that shared in Astrid's reckless determination. Together, they bore down on the Union's flagship, their weapons blazing with the fire of 1,000 suns. The Celestial Union, once so confident in their superiority, now faced the full wrath of humanity's fury. The High Temple cruiser, a symbol of their power and authority, trembled under the assault, its shields faltering and failing. Luminax, his once imposing presence reduced to a shadow of desperation, fought to maintain control. But the humans were relentless, their will unyielding and their resolve unbreakable. As the Vigilant's weapons tore through the cruiser's defenses, the reality of their impending defeat settled over Luminax like a shroud. The humans, with their reckless courage and indomitable spirit, had turned the tables completely. The final blow came swift and decisive, the Vigilance torpedoes striking the cruiser's core with pinpoint accuracy. The resulting explosion lit up the void, a brilliant supernova of human triumph. In that moment, as the Union's flagship disintegrated into a cascade of fiery debris, the humans stood victorious. They had defied the odds, overcome the impossible, and emerged triumphant against a foe that had underestimated them every step of the way. Cheers erupted across the human fleet, a chorus of jubilation that echoed through the stars. They had done it, against all odds. They had proven their worth and secured their place in the galaxy. Captain Astrid Hale allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, her eyes sweeping over the battlefield where human ships now reigned supreme. "We did it," she said, her voice filled with pride and relief. Lieutenant Harris, grinning from ear to ear, nodded in agreement. "We sure did, Captain." Humanity stands tall. As the remnants of the Celestial Union drifted into obscurity, the humans turned their gaze to the future. They had achieved a victory not just of arms, but of spirit. A testament to their resilience, their courage, and their unwavering belief in a destiny of their own making. The galaxy, once dominated by the Celestial Union's oppressive rule, now had a new force to contend with. Humanity, with their reckless brilliance and unyielding determination, had carved their own path among the stars. And the universe would never be the same again. The remnants of the Great Allegiance lay smoldering in the depths of space, the once mighty armada now reduced to scattered debris and fading embers. Aboard the human flagship, the Endeavour Asterisk, Admiral Lucy Carter stood at the bridge, eyes fixed on the dying light of the cult's flagship, Arclight Asterisk, which had cast its malignant shadow over the galaxy for far too long. Around her, the bridge crew erupted into cheers, their voices a symphony of relief and unshackled triumph. But Lucy's victory was a mosaic of loss and hope, each piece a testament to the cost of freedom. Her thoughts drifted to her daughter, Amelia, whose reckless defiance had ultimately turned the tide. It was Amelia's infiltration of the cult's inner sanctum that had given humanity the coordinates of the Allegiance's secret gathering point. A gambit that could have ended in disaster, yet it was this very recklessness that had shattered the cult's iron grip. On the planet below, the cult's followers, once thralls to the mesmerizing promises of eternal truth, awoke from their trance. They blinked under the harsh light of a sun they hadn't truly seen in years. Among them was Xander, the cult's former oracle, whose blind faith had been both his strength and his shackles. Now, he stood at the precipice of a new understanding. His visions had been nothing more than the product of a technology that manipulated the fabric of space-time, designed to enslave rather than enlighten. Xander found himself face to face with Amelia, his once nemesis and now, strangely, his savior. Her eyes were a storm of emotions, reflecting the wreckage of their former enmity. "I owe you nothing," he began, but his voice faltered. "And yet, it seems I owe you everything. You freed us." Amelia shrugged, her bravado a thin veil over the vulnerability of having faced death and destiny. "We freed each other, now we build something better." In the Galactic Council chambers, the ripple of humanity's victory spread like wildfire. Once disregarded as primitive and unruly, the humans had proven their mettle against the cosmic tyranny of the Allegiance. Ambassador Juno Choi, a veteran of countless diplomatic battles, stood poised before the assembly of alien dignitaries. Her words cut through the tension with the precision of a scalpel. "We have shown that humanity does not bow to fear," Juno declared. Her voice, steady and unyielding, resonated through the hall. "We choose our own path, and we invite all who seek freedom to walk it with us." For the first time, the assembly regarded humanity not with condescension, but with newfound respect. The old alliances and hierarchies were being rewritten. Species once cowed by the cult's reign began to rally around this bold new vision. The human spirit, reckless and radiant, had lit a beacon for the galaxy. Back on the Endeavour Asterisk, Admiral Carter turned to her crew, her heart swelling with pride as she addressed them. "We've achieved the impossible, but let's not forget those who gave everything for this moment." We honor them by forging a future worthy of their sacrifice." The crew nodded, somber yet galvanized. They had lost friends, family, comrades. But their sacrifice had not been in vain. Humanity had won more than just a battle. They had claimed their place among the stars, their legacy etched into the annals of history. As the galaxy began to heal from the wounds of war, new alliances formed. Trade routes flourished, cultural exchanges blossomed, and the shared knowledge of countless worlds began to weave a tapestry of unity. Humanity's reckless defiance had not just destroyed the chains, it had reforged them into bonds of cooperation. In the heart of this new era, Xander and Amelia found themselves at the forefront of change. Together, they spearheaded the Galactic Reconciliation Initiative, a program designed to aid former cult followers in integrating into free society. Their partnership, once unimaginable, became a symbol of the transformative power of understanding and redemption. "How did we end up here?" Xander mused aloud one evening, as they worked side by side in the initiative's bustling headquarters. Amelia smirked, her eyes dancing with mischief and warmth. "I guess even oracles and rebels can find common ground when the stakes are high enough." Their laughter echoed through the corridors, a joyous testament to the bridges built from the ashes of their past. Elsewhere, Ambassador Choi continued her tireless work. Each treaty signed a step towards a brighter future. Her efforts helped to dismantle the remnants of the cult's influence, replacing it with networks of mutual support and shared knowledge. Humanity's ingenuity and tenacity had sparked a renaissance across the galaxy. As the stars turned overhead, Admiral Carter watched from the observation deck, contemplating the vast expanse of possibilities that lay ahead. The universe was a daunting, chaotic place, but it was also a canvas for dreams yet to be realized. Humanity had proven they were more than mere wanderers of the cosmos. They were architects of their own destiny. "We did it," she murmured to herself, a quiet vow to the stars. "We changed everything." And so, in the wake of their reckless defiance, humanity had not only survived but thrived. Their story became a legend, a beacon of hope and courage that would inspire generations to come. The galaxy, once a realm of subjugation, now pulsed with the vibrant energy of freedom reclaimed. In this brave new universe, humanity stood not as conquerors, but as equals, their legacy a testament to the indomitable spirit that had carried them from the brink of extinction to the dawn of a new era. They had faced the darkness with a defiant light, and in doing so, they had forever altered the course of history. As stars continued to be born and die, humanity's reckless triumph echoed across time and space, a reminder to all who would listen. Humanity F*******, yeah. They had arrived, and they were here to stay.